Hi everyone, welcome back from Reading Week, and we are now into week 9 of CST 8300, and this week we are focusing on critical thinking as well as rationalization. So what is critical thinking? Critical thinking means making logical, reasonable judgments. It means not simply accepting all arguments and information that you are being presented with. So at this point, I'll get you to pause and watch the video about critical thinking that I've linked. So there's two types of thinking. There's convergent and divergent thinking. Convergent thinking is the analytical thinking where a limited set of facts and options are considered in order to reach a correct solution. And divergent thinking is more creative type of thinking with an endless number of possible ideas and solutions. So the trick is to not get stuck in either one. So there's different modes of persuasion, and this is going to be relevant to what we're doing. So there's ethos, which is the who. So when you're critically thinking, you're thinking of these questions. Are they credible? Do they have authority? And are they respectable? So the person who's presenting this information to you. There's the pathos, so the how. How is it appealing to emotion or to empathy? There's logos, so that's the what. Is the information actually logical? Are the facts that I'm being presented with correct? And are there any logical fallacies? Kairos, so the where and when. So is the information presented at the right time and place? Does the argument make sense for the context? And telos, which is why. Why are they presenting the information? What is their purpose? What is your purpose? So what is a logical fallacy? Logical fallacies are illogical arguments used to make the arguer appear reasonable and logical and to get others on their side using something other than good reason. So something to think about is why should we be aware of these things? And some examples. So there's the red herring, so that's delivering irrelevant information to the point of the argument and completely derailing the argument entirely. There's the bandwagon, so implying a position is correct because many others agree with this position. There's ad hominem, which is focusing on the opposition's character and not the actual argument itself. There's the straw man, which is claiming opposition must believe something that they might not. The non sequitur, so making a conclusion that does not logically follow the premise. So an example of this would be cats are mammals. Your pet is a mammal, so therefore it must be a cat. False dichotomy, so implying that there are only two possibilities when there really are more. Sometimes you would be presented with this one like at a car dealership. It's like, here are the two deals, even though there might be more possibilities. Those are the two that the car salesperson wants to sell you. So they present you with two possibilities when that's not this case at all. There are more. There's circular argument, so an argument that is based on the initial assumption. So an example is, I'm the best employee here because I was employee of the month. They wouldn't give me employee of the month if I wasn't the best employee. And then there's the sunk cost fallacy, so making decisions for the future based on what was already invested rather than on what will lead to the best outcome. What is a cognitive bias? A cognitive bias is a tendency for us to think in a certain way, which can lead to irrationality and poor judgment. Why should we be aware of cognitive biases? Being aware of these biases can help us to notice when they affect us. If we are aware of their influence, we can avoid them when making decisions. So some examples of these are confirmation bias, in-group bias, gambler's fallacy, status quo bias, bandwagon effect, bystander effect, projection bias, and relativity trap. And I encourage you to do a quick Google search of these. Normally we would have like an in-class conversation about this, but they are really interesting to learn about for sure. What is a rationalization? So a rationalization is when we attempt to use logic and reason to justify something we know is unethical. So what are some common rationalizations we might use in real life? One of the most common rationalizations is no one will know. If I do this, no one will get hurt. It might cause damage or harm, but not much, so it's still okay. Someone with authority is telling me to do it, therefore I must do it. If I do this, something desirable might/will happen. And now you're going to watch the Milgram experiment, which does has a really good example of rationalization, and the participants use these. So take a look at that, and I've linked to that in this week's materials as well. So I'm just going to show you this week's posting is a little bit different. So when you go to your group discussion, I'm going to go to activities and then discussions. In the week 9 one, when I go to this, there's already a bunch of existing threads, and you are going to reply to these threads instead of kind of having like a regular group discussion. Okay, so I look forward to marking the ethical debates, and I look forward to this week's Zoom session and what that has in store. And I will see you guys next week for week 10.